Somewhere in the Tasman Sea, off New South Wales, April 1791. She never slept deeply, not here. Even if she had, this wave would have woken her, elongating up to the sky and then bending its force down onto their small boat. She gripped the children before her eyes were fully open. She lived now with the humming fear of one of the ropes she had used to tie them breaking, of waking to find a child gone, of realising they had probably already travelled halfway through the blackness to the sea floor. They were both there. If Emmanuel was making any sound, she couldn't hear it, not above the wind. She couldn't hear Charlotte either, but the little girl's mouth was open and stretched by terror. She was probably crying, but it was impossible to tell as the constant spray claimed all tears. Her husband gripped the tiller in the fading light, sitting in water that stopped only a few inches from the gunwales. He was grinding his teeth, trying to keep the boat pointed into the waves, probably worrying that the sun would betray him by setting and that the boat would suddenly find itself side on to a salt monster. Jenny had been dreaming of Penmore, its stillness, its muted, deadening light, of her family's narrow, crammed house. Now, though, its door was splintered, its remnants hanging open on one of the hinges, as though somebody had enjoyed pulling it out of its frame and destroying it. She had called, or tried to, but it was a whisper. She inhaled, tried again, but no matter how much breath she added to it, the sound would not increase. In any case, there was no answer. But someone was there. Her father was lying in front of the fire where they had put him after the wreck, still pale and swollen from the sea. Her mother sat in the same chair as always. Had she moved? Had she spent, in that chair, the years which had propelled her daughter over impossible seas to an implausible country? Her mother started to speak, but her cheeks cracked from the side of her mouth to her ears, and instead of speech, she ejected a blast of wind that sent Jenny back down the hill, into the dream sea, from which she surfaced into consciousness and the chaos of the waves. It must have gathered quickly, this storm. There had been some chop when she'd gone to sleep in the late afternoon, and since then the winds had been pummeling the water into a new substance altogether, a landscape of moving mountains where no boat had any business existing. And it wouldn't, not for long, not if they didn't start bailing. Carney was at the sail, trying to get it down before the wind punched a hole in it. But Harrigan was no use. He had retained enough consciousness to lift himself from the bottom of the boat when the wave hit it, sitting up so that he looked like a duchess in a bath. But he still had that stare, still looked as though he was viewing a different world from the rest of them, one far more horrific. Bruton, meanwhile, just sat there, hanging onto his bench, his eyes flicking from Jenny to her children. No doubt he was resenting them, useless passengers who contributed nothing to his survival. She rolled her lips together. Why, in God's name, did she always have to harangue the men? Why couldn't they see what needed doing and just do it? She kicked at the privy bucket, its edges sticking up from the water inside the boat. Bail, for God's sake! We'll flounder, and soon! You have to bail! Bruton kept staring, not the type to take orders from a woman who'd tied herself to a bench. The boat was slowly grinding up a wave, which disappeared underneath them, sending them crashing down. The impact dislodged some of the water, but then added more. And when Jenny wiped her eyes, she saw Bruton, stubborn but not stupid, frantically bailing with a privy bucket. Somewhere beyond these waves was a place where their choices extended beyond drowning or starvation, where she wouldn't have to clench her arms around the children and tell the sea it couldn't have them. But they hadn't reached it yet. Sometimes, when the sea was at its worst, she wondered if they ever would.